Welcome to Fika's Focus. Voices leading change.
Kia ora, Lauren. How are you?
Hey Ray, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Good. I just wanted to take this time and fill the gap just to discuss a couple of our visits that we had with Golden Sands in Te Manawa O Pāpāmoa, and really more so focusing on just their approach as it follows on from the podcast with Golden Sands. It was a pretty cool opportunity for us to go in and see Golden Sands in operation, wasn't it?
Yeah, something I've never seen before.
What was it? So we went in, and just to give a background, we went in and saw kind of an hour and a half of the program, and there was certainly some traditional elements to it. And when I say traditional, kind of stuff that most people grew up doing.
Yeah, structured learning.
Yeah, structured. Yep. And then we really saw it unfold into a play-based session. So what were some of the cool things that you saw happening in that space on that time?
I think for me, it was for the children. It was all self-directed. Like, other than the, and I mean 5 to 10 minute burst of intense information, I guess. Or intense activity around a particular thing, phonics, reading group, those types of things, writing. But it was very, and I say burst because it was literally 5 to 10 minutes, if that. And then the element of free play, their outside space having the big loose parts and then being able to move physically and challenge their bodies physically and imagine and explore and discover and work with and alongside their friends outside, to then coming back into the inside environment to see exactly the same thing, the free play, the child-directed.
Let's discuss that burst, because where it kind of challenges the traditional model is, in my day, when I was teaching in that space, like a reading group would be like, you could spend in a guided reading session 15 minutes with a group, and we were literally seeing it's done in a 5-minute window.
Yeah.
Like quick, fast, very to the point, kids heavily engaged. It was pretty cool to see.
I also think inclusive. All of the groups that we saw were very inclusive. Like, if you're talking about the correct terminology, a new entrant space, or the year 0 to year 1, that kind of, they're just starting their school journey, right? But it was all inclusive. They were all at completely different levels, yet every single child in the group had a role to play.
Yes.
And participated in some way or another.
Yes. And in terms of reporting, it was nice to see how even their method of capturing how the kids are going has evolved in a short period of time. But, their teacher, there's a lot more trust placed on teacher judgment.
Yes.
As a professional. So you and I watched the writing session. Do you want to just talk a wee bit to what we kind of saw going on?
Yep. So I think the majority of what we saw, for me, the biggest thing that stood out was the fact that all of the children were on the floor at every single group session.
Not at desks.
Not at desks, not at tables. They were all sitting on the floor. Every single group used a whiteboard and a whiteboard marker.
No books.
So no books. There were different, for lack of a better description, levels, depending on the letter formation, because it was combined writing with phonics. And the team did identify that after, that you can't rush phonics. So when a child is at a particular level, they've got to stay at that particular level, because you can't jump a step.
Yes, it was staged.
Yep.
You had to achieve the stage prior to
be able to,
almost gamified.
Yeah.
And also the child with the taniwha piece.
Yes, they were writing their own book.
Yes, so they're writing a book about, but the child with the taniwha wasn't actually writing.
No, but he had a very important role to play.
Yeah.
Looking after the taniwha. So he was still included, even though he wasn't quite interested in where all the other children were at.
Yes. And when we went into Te Manawa, because we didn't see the classroom in action really, yet. But we were able to see a lot of their back end stuff, the kind of photos, and it was real snapshots of their learning, the shared language, and the deep understanding of what they're trying to achieve for their kids. What were some things that stood out to you from Te Manawa?
I think on the presentation, the ability for the children to direct their own learning, but also carry that out. You know, having the projects and the big creations laid out on the floor with a stop sign on them.
Yes.
So that they could
pack up till
save
Friday.
so they could save them for the week. That the importance of revisiting learning, we know in early childhood, is so important. You know, that's why we have the portfolios and we have the ability to be able to reflect and revisit on prior learning. But I think to be able to have that in a school setting is pretty phenomenal.
Maybe it's even, it's massively phenomenal, because I know there wasn't a desire to just tidy up for the end of the day. You know, it's what you're trying to do is build a continuum of learning until it loses steam.
Yep.
Yeah. Also, what stood out to me was really some of the understanding of children and what it is that drove their learning, and why this stands out to me is because I see it every day in ECE.
Yes.
You know, we've got teachers that literally say, "Oh, this child needs to wet them. You know, it needs to pour water on themselves before 9 o'clock, otherwise they'll have a bad day." And it helps feed that urge, and we hear that all the time. So it's nice for us to walk into a space in the primary setting and hear the same language.
Yeah, I think the same along that language, that they're using the notice, recognise and respond.
Yes.
So that was a consistency for me for both the schools, is that they had that available, whether it was on a whiteboard, whether it was on documentation, however that was done, the way they respond, or what the whole process of documenting children's learning was the notice, recognise and respond.
Yeah. So that's consistent with what is going on in early learning. I think ultimately they are seeing huge benefits, and what we got to witness in a short window. We've got to illustrate that it was a short window, but it was very evident to see a high level of engagement, a lot of direction, self-direction, so children choosing the right thing to do for a starter, and also in that space, the flow between the rooms and sharing with this teacher and that teacher and things like that, which is quite comparative to what we see in an early learning setting, the flow. Kids will naturally drift towards teachers that they like. That is a given. That we do it as adults as well, as we drift towards people we like more so. And it was clear to see that when that child brought over their writing, that the teacher was sharing with another teacher, there was a lot of shared joy in that space, right?
Yep, definitely. I think that for me was a real highlight. The amount of praise and positivity that came from the teachers towards the children and their learning, regardless of where they were at or what was expected of them.
Yes.
It was more so that they were celebrating where they were at and that they tried.
Yes.
Regardless of the outcome.
Yes. So, what I didn't hear, but I obviously, with Carol Dweck and mindset, this is work on mindset, growth mindsets, there was a lot more conversation going on around effort.
Yes, and self-belief.
Yes. So not intelligence conversations. If you want to look that up, you can look up Carol Dweck in her famous book called Mindset. But in there was a lot of praise towards effort, which is grounded in a lot of Carol Dweck's kind of approaches. But like you said, there was a huge volume of praise, and it did discuss towards effort. It was, I didn't see a child walk up and say, "I can't spell that," or "I can't do that letter." I can't. In fact, that whole 90 minutes, I did not see one child go up and say or use those words. So they've had to build that. But again, just drawing back to our own sector, it's not often I see a child really walk in and be like, "I'm not going to give that a go," or "not going to try." But it was really nice to see it in that primary setting.
Yeah, I agree.
Reflection on what it might look like over a whole day of running it that way. What would you I mean, I know we could go and watch, but what would you anticipate seeing in the afternoon?
If I'm really honest, exactly the same.
Yeah.
I think the teaching team made it really clear that they were a team. what their expectations of each other were, like the teaching team. How the children knew what was coming next in the routine of the day, given we're most of the way through the year.
Yes.
So they're into the flow of it for sure. But I think when children know the routine and know what's coming next, they're a lot more open to change.
Yeah, you're right. It would be much of the greatness, right? It would just continue to be. It's cool to finally see the correlation and people picking up on the fact that play-based or, play as an approach is actually a very powerful way to bring, I know that primary education is only just getting to this, but early learning's been doing this a long time.
Agreed.
A long time.
Yeah.
And I know we've had to argue and somewhat almost defend the approach, but as a former primary school teacher, it was very heartwarming to see this approach being used. So, that was a pretty cool moment. So thank you for giving us some insight into that, Lauren.
No,
And as we go about making sure that we are supporting the sector, we are supporting the fact that ECE has been doing this a long time. So it is proud. It is a proud moment for us to go in and see it being witnessed in the primary setting.
I agree.
Thanks, Lauren.
Thanks, Ray.